Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny. Sometimes Colorado. Today is April 23rd. I have returned from the jungles of the Amazon, from being in Manao and going up the river and meeting all the different tribes there, the Satari Mawe and dozens of others. Night canoeing, little paddle, and spear fishing, and of course did the bullet ant ceremony, the tukandira, excuse me. So the ceremony, for those who don't know about it, you actually have to go meet the tribe, spend time with them, break bread with them, and after you do that, then they say, okay, you're a guy we like. So then you go out and you collect the ants. So you have to go find bullet ant hives and you tap the tree with a machete. They get all angry, and you have a little stick, and you grab them with the stick. They start stinging the stick, and then you take them and put them into kind of a palm tree, which is hollow on the inside. And you tap it, then you cap it, and after you've collected about 200 ants or so, then you walk back to the tribe, and then you have to stun the ants. And so there's a certain leaf that contains a sedative for ants. You grind it up and put it in the fluid, and then you pour the ants inside the fluid. You mix it up, and somehow they don't drown. And then they just go paralyzed. Then you take the ants and you weave them into the bullet ant gloves. And after you weave them into the bullet ant gloves, then they go to sleep for about an hour or two. So you put the gloves back up, you go have lunch, then you sit for an hour in deep contemplation of, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is a bad idea. This is going to hurt like hell. And then you go out, they paint your hands black. And after they paint your hands, you go to the ritual. And so you bend over, they put the bullet ant gloves on, and then you have to dance for about 8 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on what song they select. So the chieftain selects the song, and we go and do that. And it's just incredibly painful. Absolutely, brutally painful. And so we did, and learned a lot in the process. I had to go through the whole thing. So as I was initially getting bit, hands started getting numb. I said, oh, okay, I can do this. The problem is that on the other side, the pain starts building and it radiates up your arm into your chest, to your head, your face. And it's the best I can describe it as is kind of a throbbing feeling. This, wah, wah, and just waves of fiery pain. So fire hits you, pulls back a bit. Fire hits you, pulls back a bit. That's basically what we went through. And so I did it with a bunch of the guys. And then we were like, hey, I have a little bit of a cold. Hey, we're good to go. We're jungle warriors now, Satari Mawe. And then we had a chance to go up the river and do all the other really cool and interesting stuff. So what was fascinating is when I posted it on YouTube and I posted on the internet, a lot of criticism about my body weight. Okay, can't take your shirt off anymore on the internet. Some people said I didn't place the ants in the right place. Okay, well, that's what they told me to do. I guess internet people are experts. The chieftain told me to put it in a certain place, but you guys know more than the chieftain of the Satari Mawe tribe that's done this hundreds of times in the last 30 years. Great. Or, something else. We've reached a point in society where nobody can be happy for people. Wow, that guy went and did something very hard and very courageous. And it took a lot of guts to go down to the Amazon and go and do something very hard and overcome that as a personal challenge. And it obviously is meaningful to me. But the hatred is so strong that if you dislike somebody, they ever do anything that's virtuous or hard or interesting or unique, it has to in some way be corrupt or wrong or evil or bad. And it can't be real. It has to somehow be jaded. And that culture is so extraordinarily toxic and devastating to any concept of progress. Can you imagine that when you hear something, the very first thing you do is you don't talk about the thing. You first get oriented based on whether you like the person or not. And if you like the person, the thing is automatically good. If you dislike the person, the thing is automatically bad. That's 2025 in a nutshell. And when we look at the budget right now, I'm seeing a lot of that. Here's the thing, input output, we've made a lot of mistakes, but we've done a lot of good. We were paid about $36 million worth of Bitcoin and about $6 million worth of ADA. Long time ago, 10 years ago, to go and do something crazy, to go build a cryptocurrency ecosystem with partners who were difficult, who in some cases didn't deliver, through environments and atmospheres that had BitConnect, OneCoin, FTX, Luna, and dozens of other things. All the markets up, all the markets down. Today, right now, Cardano is an ecosystem worth around $25 billion, give or take. Millions of people in it, thousands of dApps. It's in the top 10, and it's regarded as one of the great successes of the cryptocurrency space off of that initial funding. We assembled one of the largest teams of scientists and engineers in the entire world, very skilled engineers to do some of the most difficult work the world has ever seen for cryptocurrency engineering. Formal methods work, 240 academic papers, many of which are peer-reviewed with over 10,000 citations. We did an enormous amount of work figuring out how to write novel and new protocols, a brand new peer-to-peer stack, new consensus protocols, a complete on-chain governance system that took 2 years to design and deploy. And then obviously enough flexibility that people could come in and learn how to use the thing and build their own stuff, as evidenced by Aiken, for example, and the dozens of other things. And we're at a precipice where many people are starting to learn enough about what has been constructed to build their own clients, their own nodes, and to build their own tools. Institutions are forming. And those institutions that are forming, like Intersect and Pragma, they're starting to showcase that they can do stuff, but they're very young and they're very new. And there's a transition from a founding set of entities to community entities that are community-led and organized. And within 12 months to about 24 months, we should have multiple clients written in different languages, strong institutions, and strong processes about how we want to come together and organize the ecosystem as a whole. I was given to build the ecosystem 35 million plus 6 million worth of ADA, give or take, depends on how you cut up the markets. We currently have, depending on the price of ADA, 1.7 billion ADA and over $1 billion worth of market value there. That's what we left behind for all of you guys to decide what to do. And I see these comments on the internet of basically like, well, you should be paid nothing. You already received a lot of ADA. You didn't finish the roadmap. You're greedy. You're being overpaid. There should be an aggressive competitive RFP process. We need to vet and see if you guys are real guys. Here's the thing. The engineers I can have them build new projects. I can have them build new companies. I can have them build high margin products, or I can have them be time and materials engineers. I have zero interest in the people that work for me being time and material engineers. It's a race to the bottom. With AI generated code, with outsourcing, the average rate per developer will go down year after year. So your margins continue to shrink. When you talk about a high-end engineer, a person who's a PhD in computer science, a formal methods engineer, a person who's a domain expert in this field, they will never be price competitive with a bachelor's degree engineer fresh out of school in India, aided by Windsurf. But you're competing with that in a lowest cost bit system. And which institutions have proven that they're good counterparties? If Microsoft comes to me, as they have in the past, and we talk around an idea of let's do something together, let's write a paper together, let's write some code together, let's figure out something together. That's a credible counterparty. It's a 50-year-old company that built Windows. It's a 50-year-old company that literally built a new form of matter in a quantum computer. It's a 50-year-old company that's worth trillions of dollars and has hundreds of thousands of the most skilled engineers in the world working for it. It's a credible counterparty. We can have deep and technical conversations and deeply understand the nuances of what they want to accomplish, and nobody's wasting each other's times. No institution in Cardano has reached a level of maturity to match something like that. So if they're going through an RFP process, it's bike shedding. at the end of the day. It's bike shedding. People have never delivered a product. People have never written code at scale. People have never been accountable to being there at Christmas Day, and this did happen, 2 o'clock in the morning, something breaks, and we have to skip Christmas to fix it, are now sitting there saying, yeah, well, I don't like how much you're charging. Let's just shave 20% off of that because this guy over here says he can do it for 20% less. Okay, so I'm working for free or at a loss. And the opportunity cost is those very same engineers could be building dApps that are cross-chain. Those very same engineers could be building an AI product. Those very same engineers could be working on an electronic health record system for my medical company. And all of the growth potentials in those are in the billions. So I'm going to burden them with losing money, have a counterparty that doesn't understand what they're asking for when they could be doing something else. And they say, you owe it to the community. You know what? I'll do this for you. We'll get Laos done to RFP, and we will find a great qualified company like Twig to finish it. Sure, there you go. I can't guarantee it'll actually enter production because now we're in a multi-client environment, and I don't control what TX Pipe does and Blink Labs does and Harmonic does, but at least I can speak for the Haskell side. We're more than happy to write that code. But when we look beyond Laos, what are you paying me for then? Just to be a time and materials contractor? Or do you want the strategy? Do you want me showing up every day fighting for Cardano? Do you want me to give input where I think we can go to 10x the ecosystem? And what you're basically saying is we want that for free. That's what these people are saying. Or we're unhappy with what's been delivered. Would you be happier with Luna? Would you be happier with EOS? Would you be happier with IOTA? Would you be happier with NXT? Would you be happier with all the hundreds of projects that have come and gone throughout the last 10 years since Cardano has launched? We're still in the game. We're still relevant. We still have liquidity. We still know how to navigate things. We're still mentioned. People still comment on Cardano. It's still on the list. It was just added to the reserve. The President of the United States was talking about it. We're still in the game. And what you're basically saying is none of that matters. You've been paid already. Okay. So it's a referendum. And, Project Blueprint in the roadmap you guys already approved is about writing a set of blueprints so diverse development teams can form. We went to organize and brought people together for a no diversity workshop. We showed up. We talked to them. We figured out a lot of standards, and we've been pushing for a budget process to include full funding of diverse node teams. We were the ones pushing for institutions to form, like Intersect. The foundation pushed for Pragma to be formed, amongst others. And these institutions, over time, will grow into credible counterparties that are more than capable of running ecosystems. But we all knew that 2025 was the transition year. We just approved the Constitution in February. We just approved it. We're still preparing for elections to replace the interim Constitutional Committee with the final Constitutional Committee in the second half of this year. We're still sorting out what are the official conferences. We're still getting used to voting with DREPs and these types of things. It's a transition year. And there's plenty of money in the Treasury. Fiscal conservatism was there. And whether the NCL is 350 and we spend 90% of that, or the NCL is 500 and we spend 70% of that, whatever, there's going to be an enormous amount of ADA left behind for year 2026. And in year 2026, we now have 8 months to talk about a process for next year together, about how do we build it in a direction where we have everything we want. And year after year, that process can get better. And it's not going to break Cardano. But what you're basically doing is saying, let's alienate the people that got us here. Let's slow down everything while we're just about to enter a bull market. And let's make Cardano a very unattractive place for people to build. When our competitors have billions of dollars and they're very loose with their money in a high growth time period. And that's our strategy. And then you go to the venture capitalists and say, ADA is unwilling to invest in its own people, but you should invest in Cardano. That's what you're saying. I think what it is a referendum not about what has been done and where we want to go, but rather some people are trying to use this process because they're disgruntled with input output, me, or something that happened in the ecosystem, and they're sour grapes. And they're trying to hijack this process for the intent purpose of basically settling scores, getting even, and proving that these people are bad actors, myself included. That's what they're trying to do. And if you let them do it, you let them do it. As a DREP, it's your decision. This is what decentralization basically means. Look, I'm going to be okay one way or the other. I am proud of the work that we did with Cardano. I've spent a decade of my life. If you look at the pictures, this wasn't white when I started. I had a lot more of this up here when I started, and this belly was a lot smaller when I started. And it's not because of a lack of discipline. It's because I travel 200 to 250 days a year. You know that because you see the fucking pictures at the conferences. I fought hard in the trenches, and every single thing I said I was going to do, I did. And we know how to finish the original roadmap. And that's what we're doing. And we're trying to organize a relationship so that we can stay in the ecosystem and be productive without smothering all the growth of other people. And it's hard at times because there's a lot of arguments and conversations that I want to be in. I still possess an enormous amount of ADA, probably one of the largest data holders in the world outside of Binance and a few others. I said publicly we would not vote because we would skew the entire vote, and then the vote wouldn't have any legitimacy. Because people would say, oh, well, that was just Charles voting for himself. And it was important that people step up and independent leadership step up. We said we would not be a DREP. We said we would no longer serve on the Constitutional Committee after the final elections and the interim period is over. And we've been stepping away from a lot of these governance institutions. And we wanted to go from building Cardano to building on Cardano again and again. Even in the glacier drop with Midnight, Cardano has a massive and outsized proportion of the supply being distributed. If it was just by market cap, it would be very small. Cardano is getting the largest share. That's how much I love and care about this ecosystem. But part of love and care is not entering toxic and abusive relationships. And toxic and abusive relationships say, we don't acknowledge what you've done. We want you to work for free or at a loss. And we're going to hold unrealistic and unnecessary standards against you. And also your counterparties are not qualified to actually instruct you to do the things you want to do. That's an abusive relationship. And it makes no sense for us as an organization to be involved in such a thing. You as DREPs get to decide what type of ecosystem you want to have. What's been left behind is a giant treasury, a fertile environment with many dApps and approaches and philosophies, different institutions that have different governance strategies, and a lot of options. And I have a beautiful roadmap I gave you guys with Bitcoin DeFi and Cardano becoming the largest AVS system, fully realizing the power of extended UTXO, how we do telescoping scalability with Ouroboros Paris and Ouroboros Praus and Laos, and these things include fast finality, intense Babel fees, all kinds of really amazing things that I think put us best in class, and a really strong, robust on-chain governance system, which I think is our biggest USP. That's what I've left you. And you have to decide whether you value that, and you have to decide whether the people who came up with that are still people that you want around. But if you treat them like shit and you abuse them and criticize them, or say we're dishonest and corrupt, you shouldn't be so surprised when those people say, you know what, life is too short. There's other things to do. There's more interesting projects to work on. And we've gotten to that critical mass. No matter what, Cardano is going to be around. It'll be here. No matter what, Cardano is here to stay. It's permanent. And that's my legacy. And I'm proud of that. I really am. And it's taken 10 years' time to get to a point where Cardano is a self-sustaining organism. And you as members of that organism, you have to make decisions about where you want to take it and where you want to go. Do you want to be number one on CoinMarketCap? Are you prepared to take the risks and invite people in and make them care about such things? Or do you not want to do that? And do you just want to stagnate, stay in the top 10, top 20, top 30? Do you want to make Cardano about one particular thing and really go all in on that? We have RealFi at IO, We're doing lending in Africa. That's going to grow every year. We never stopped that plan. I love people come and criticize us. Well, what about Ethiopia? What about Ethiopia? We came in, we followed every law and standard. We had signed contracts from the Ministry of Education. We spent years in jurisdiction. We got actual students on our system. We built a Tala Prism. We turned it over actually to Hyperledger and worked with them with Hyperledger dentists. We never got paid once. We repeatedly had to travel to places that were functionally a war zone. We were publicly criticized by CoinDesk and others for working with a genocidal regime. Our own employees were physically threatened. Their safety was threatened. In many cases, they were worried they would be arrested by the government, but we stuck it out for year after year after year after year. And when it became clear the government had no intention of doing anything in the blockchain space, and every promise and commitment they made, like, for example, when they said they were going to get rid of capital controls and legalize crypto, and they didn't do it, only then did we say, you know what, it is what it is, and we walked away. And they said that's a misintegrity on my side. And they refer to Calcasa, piece of garbage going around, who, by the way, conveniently omits all of these facts. And that very same team is now in Kenya. It's already deployed tens of thousands of loans to people, which will bring us real-world assets into the Cardano ecosystem with real yield into the Cardano ecosystem. And it built a phenomenal relationship with Hyperledger. And we now get to offer identity products that work with Cardano for the enterprise space in Cardano. And they can be used everywhere, whether it be Argentina or other places. That's the tenacity that we have. But we don't get there. And there's no nuance in these conversations anymore. And there's no credit for the attempt when 90% of activities fail. We're still here. We're still alive. We're still going. So you have to make some decisions. And you say things like, this guy right here, you're not even working on Bitcoin DeFi. That's a lie. Just straight up lie. We have a dedicated team on it. We're partnered with Fairgate. We're part of the Fairgate Alliance that's been put together, working on BitVMX. We right now have developers writing a UPLC to RISC-V compiler so Aiken and Plutus can compile to Bitcoin script. We're working on the bridge. We're working on the wallet integration. This month, Bitcoin support for Lace. And the very next update of that pathway is Bitcoin DeFi on Lace, where it's literally a button you click to enable DeFi mode for Bitcoin. But yet person says this with no accountability whatsoever. The lie, it just propagates. And we do it in public, like Leo's, for example. Every month there's a public meeting. People can see the progress. They can see the GitHub repos. People are talking about it. You know, there's so much interest and demand in Bitcoin DeFi, we're having to set up a satellite event next to Bitcoin to 2025 because we can't fit it all into a keynote. This is the kind of stuff, though, that kills an ecosystem. If this is how you act, what do you expect to gain? And why would people want to build there? So grow up. Honestly speaking, grow up. Take a hard, long look in the mirror and ask yourself who your friends are and who's been around. It's going to be hard to find many founders who have the pedigree, the legacy, and put in the time that we put in and the effort that we put in this ecosystem. And careful what you wish for, because if you drive those types of people out, you don't get another replacement for them. You just go into a death spiral and things fall apart. You know, a lot of good people, though. And I've met them and I've worked with them and I enjoy them. And what makes me sad is when they got driven out too. I saw people during the constitutional debate that have been in the ecosystem since 2016 leave in frustration because of how toxic certain people have come. And I can empathize with them greatly. It's one thing to say you disagree and here's the reasons why. It's another thing to be personal and attack people and say people are dishonest and evil and monsters and they're thieves. It's another thing. Anyway, is what it is. You just keep going through. As you see, I have a very high tolerance for pain, as evidenced by the bullet ants. And boy, that was a lot of fun. And we got that done. And we'll just keep moving forward. And I do honestly, look in the mirror first, dude. Okay, Casey. Well, tell me, where did I cause that? Go ahead. Anyway, voting is a referendum on all this. For my part, I do believe that the NCL will pass tomorrow, and I do believe we'll get the budget done and we'll move forward. And year by year, it'll get better, and we'll get where we need to go. This is more of just a call, for people to be returned to civility.